actually appear on the microphone console, touchscreen microphone console, when you fire up the system. And we have this as an Evap. Evap A. You can have a listen if you like.
This is a
bit too warm, too loud there, but you get the principle. Right, events we'll go into in a separate session. Evap Matrix is when we're getting specific Evap triggers. We set up the matrix. Live monitoring is the way we can actually monitor the system when we're plugged into it, see what the faults are, see essential during setting up. Then of course we've got simple things like multi-channel streaming, we always have that, accept collisions, amplifier power save mode, essential if you're going to keep the battery sizes down. We're not using global net, which is the way we link different systems together, so you can link an impact and a compact 500 or multiple impacts or multiple compact 500s together. We're not using it on this particular one, so we won't bother. Report fault on decalibrated speaker lines, exactly what it says. Are you going to record a fault if it's not being monitored? Probably not, but some people do like to do that. Power supply surveillance and allow commercial activity on mains phone. Background music, does it work when you've got a mains phone? And we've got what language, COM port if we're going to connect with live monitoring, download device selections, mute buzzer on fault, that's standard. Use preferred device ID, enable code for pin configuration. So what that is if you want to use a pin code on the touchscreen to stop people randomly using your system, you can actually create a pin code on the touchscreen. You'll notice here we've got open network flasher and open network bootloader flasher. There are two different ways of loading the software into a completed system. One is using the network, flashes it all over the network, and the other is straight onto the actual card and just plug it in. Both have positives and both have negatives, but for this we're just going to stick with the card version. Right, so we've got live monitoring, Evap, events, we've not got any of those. We can add an event if we want. Amplify volume event, a background music event, a GPO, general purpose output event, an external fault event if we're sending a message to a fire system, a line input volume event, a live evacuation event, a message event, or a phased evacuation event. So these are all ways of triggering different things within the system. Very powerful, but very straightforward. So if you wanted to put a message event, you could choose the zones, you could choose what triggers it, you can choose which audio message you're going to use, whether it's continuous play, whether it's multiples of plays, and so on and so forth. You can do all of that, but we're not going to do any because we're going to have a simple system. Right, so there's the impact controller setup. Now onto the SW6. Again, fairly straightforward. Outputs. Enable the outputs that we're using end-of-line monitoring, yes or no. Impedance tolerances. Disable short circuit detection. If you're not doing end-of-line monitoring, you can actually not look for a short circuit as well, which is if you just wanted to drive into a short and not tell you. I'm not entirely sure why you want to do that, but it's up to you. Inputs. Monitoring A and B. We're monitoring input A and monitoring input B. You can not monitor them if you wish, so if you want to use one of the inputs as a background music channel and not monitor it, you don't have to monitor it. We're going to do a redundant link. You can do a redundant link that links back so that if it goes bidirectionally, so that if it fails in between a link between the controller and SW6, then another SW6, then back to the controller to give you a redundant link, you can do it that way, and if it fails, one of the links fails, the redundant link kicks in. So there you go. So we're just going to keep it simple, and that's your settings for that. Again, you'll notice the ID comes up when you look at it. Right, touchscreen microphone. What we're going to put on these is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and down the bottom, and all cool. Got some Evap sources, got an Evap message. You don't have to use it, but you need it. You do have to use it if you've got the telephone version, the FMTC, which has a telephone there. FMCT, can't remember which way around it is, but it has a telephone or built-in fire microphone in the actual microphone console, which triggers when you open the lid and pick up the microphone. Now that won't work properly if you don't set up Evap messages and also Evap zones. I'm just doing it as a PA at the moment, so we'll move on. Farmer's microphone gain, if you want it left or up or down. Feedback buzzer. Now this is a good one. When you actually push the touchscreen microphone, it's tactile. It gives you haptic feedback, which is I think essential, because it's very difficult to sometimes understand if you pressed it or not, even though it greys out or highlights depending on what you're doing. Redundant link again, you can do the redundant link to the actual microphone. I'm going to leave it for this one. Okay, so that's the system set up. If we were going to save that, we would save wherever it wants to go.